lighting people, there's an old adage that if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, what does one do if he goes to the University of Colorado and graduates from the prestigious architectural engineering lighting program, works for lighting design firms, works for a lighting agency, and then also has a passion for photography, videography, and marketing? Well, if you're today's guest, you start up your own company that ties all of those things together. So today we're pleased to be joined by Sam Koerbel, founder of Lytei. Sam, hello, and thank you for joining us today for 5 big questions.
What's going on, Al? It's good to see you. Thanks for letting me join you guys.
Sam, it's always great to see you. And Lytei's been around for a little over a couple years now. And when it first started, sometimes people tried to put you in a box of being like a lighting videographer or a product pitchman or an aspiring influencer or a product review person. And you really aren't any of those things per se. So what would you say to those people who don't fully understand what Lytei is?
You know, Al, everything that you mentioned is something we do here at Lytei. But at the end of the day, Lytei, we're a storytelling machine. We've mastered the craft of what it means to connect with people, both who have the stories to tell and the people that want to learn about their stories. The best way to think about who we are is, well, we're the next Rolling Stones magazine. The biggest difference is all we're going to talk about is lighting, though. We like to curate content. We like to tell stories, and we like to, bring them with a little bit of edge, all while being, of course, educational, informative, and technically accurate along the way.
Well, Sam, you're definitely all of those things, and you also throw in some occasional humor, which we appreciate as well. And one of the things where you've done all those tasks that you just mentioned is we've noticed that you've been involved in some product launches. Silicon Valley is famous for having these grandiose product launches when they launch and unveil new products. And I realize that you've now been doing this for some lighting manufacturers. Tell us more about that particular service that you offer to manufacturers.
As I mentioned earlier, we really like to tell stories at Lytei, particularly about lighting, but that's a pretty broad umbrella at the end of the day. A big part of what's going on in our industry right now is the continuing need to push forward, regardless of really the economic status in the world. Innovation is always happening, and disruption is on the heels of not innovating. So we've gone out and we've talked to a lot of our manufacturing friends, and we've asked them, what are the biggest challenges that you're having today? Inevitably, the pandemic forced them all to be sidelined with their sales staffs. But realistically, it's 2021, and the virtual and digital world is here to stay. It's an incredible way to connect with people. I mean, after all, everybody launches that new keynote that Apple does every time they launch a new product. So we kind of stole a page out of, as you said, Silicon Valley. And we're curating these special events in what we like to call the light space, which is where we truly create an interactive and immersive experience. We've got as many camera angles as we need in the room. We've got high definition cameras, and we've got a lot of editing power behind that to also put graphics and really build that story over time. The most unique thing about this is, well, you can rehearse stuff like that, and you can really get it short down and to the point. At Lytei, we say when we win is when our customers win and when the audience wins. By telling the audience what they may normally hear in an hour, in 20 minutes, they win. When giving our client an opportunity to, spend 20 minutes and engage over 3,000 people in a single session, as opposed to going door to door over the course of 14 months, they're going to win too. And of course, Lytei wins because we get to tell somebody a story.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, before the pandemic, it was common to have 40 to 60-minute webinars, and then that turned into 20-minute webinars. And then it turned into a lot of 1 to 3 to 5-minute videos that people were posting on various websites and social media platforms. So you've obviously been a big part of that, and that's an exciting service that you're shedding light on, no pun intended. And when you think about, you're well connected among manufacturers, among specifiers, among even lighting agents, especially in your hometown. Do you ever get pushback from, a lot of your work's been with many of the prominent names in architectural lighting or controls. Do you ever get pushback from people who aren't too happy that you're promoting their competitor while also possibly promoting their brand?
We really don't get any pushback at all. And I think the reason we don't is because what we do is we elevate brands. We're not here to sell one thing over another. We're here to just tell that authentic and genuine story. As a matter of fact, I've heard lately, hey, the fact that you're working with our competitor actually makes us even more interested in working with you.
Now that's smart, and I see that even in my business. When I start working with one, the others start coming as well. And one of the really interesting things about following Lytei on various social media platforms is seeing you kind of do your work. You show us kind of how the sausage is made behind the scenes, and we see you lugging 200 pounds of video equipment and podcast equipment across the country and various airport checkpoints. And we see you're building out your new space recently. And there's lots of projects that you've been working on. And when you think about that, you're the star of so many of the videos, even though you'll probably say that the product is the star, the brand is the star, but you personally are involved in the video, the editing, the podcast host, traveling, and all these things. How is your business able to be scalable when Sam Koerbel is touching all those different areas?
Al, it's a great question, and it's one that I take head on. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you it was just me when I started. I literally had to do everything from the lugging of the gear to the editing to being on camera. So I kind of forced myself into every single position. Every startup has an option: go into debt immediately and borrow some capital and hire a team, or grind, teach yourself how to do everything on your own, and so to speak, work for free. I obviously chose the latter because the reality is I believe in what I'm doing. I believe that people are passionate about lighting, but we need a more effective way to get that outside of our community, and the digital solution is the answer. Having said that, I'm on camera because, well, like I said, I had to start there, and I don't really mind it. I was Chip the Buffalo in college, and I'd be lying if I didn't say it's always kind of fun to get out there and connect with people and maybe entertain a little bit. But the reality is Lytei is a brand, and I'm super fortunate to have the small core team that's actually working with us today. In order to scale the business, there's a few things that have to happen. Mostly what we need more people with more creativity that know how to be professional content editors, that understand how to process things, that understand how to work as a collaborative team. But if you think about it, Hollywood exists, and people spend $200 million spending 4 years to make a film that lasts 2 hours long. We're not quite doing that. We're doing things that are 2 minutes long. So we can kind of take a model around, the creative media approach. And what's cool is we can actually work worldwide. The Lytei team isn't just in the United States. We go to sleep, and part of our team keeps working overseas so that we can keep cranking out content. Taking advantage of technology in that 24-hour workday is really one of the biggest things that we do to scale our business. Moving forward, it's going to be important that we have a more diverse portfolio of people that are also on camera. It's important that we look at our community, our industry, and what's going on in this world. Sam from Lytei does not need to and will not ever be the only person on camera. One of the biggest things we did is we released a documentary on 20 lighting designers in 2020. It's actually our most viewed piece of content to date, and that didn't have anybody from Lytei in it. And that's something that personally I'm super proud of.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that documentary was also very well received by the industry, particularly the specification stakeholders in our industry. And just to go back to something you said, Chip the Buffalo, was that your fraternity nickname, or was that a mascot or something else?
Chip is the costume mascot at the University of Colorado. We've got Ralphie, the real life buffalo. And then conveniently speaking, Ralphie, does her business out the back, and those are called Buffalo Chips, and that's how Chip got his name. Suit, I promise you, doesn't smell like that, nor do we have that kind of an attitude. He's very much a caricature that is, great on game days. Families love Chip, kids love Chip, and quite frankly, if you're following the University of Colorado sports, we're pretty terrible. So somebody's got to have a reason to come to the game. Chip was a great opportunity to really just be a part of a community and really give back, which is something that I love to do no matter where I'm at.
That's great. Let's give you a bonus question number 6, because that Chip question was unscheduled on my list. But when we think about the future of Lytei, and we've gotten a pretty good idea of some of the services you offer today, what types of services do you see your company offering manufacturers or other lighting companies in the future?
At the core of Lytei, it's all about telling stories. Today, the most effective way to tell stories is through a digital interface that we know as video, what you and I are doing right now. In the future, though, that's going to expand. And when I say future, it's a not so distant future. Over the next 18 to 36 months, virtual reality is going to become a real thing in this industry. There's a gaming industry that's, just scraping off a cool $1 billion a year, having a lot of fun developing this technology. It's a shoo-in for the architectural industry as a whole. And I definitely think that as Lytei looks to the future, not only will we be able to deliver quality content, but create an even more interactive and immersive experience with a headset in front of your two eyes.
Sam, I'm immediately going to Google virtual reality and figure out what that is, because it sounds like something I should be involved in. So thanks for the heads up, and keep up the great work. The industry in general just loves what you do, from all the different stakeholders, from lighting designers and other specifiers, agents, factories, et cetera. Love what you're doing. The agencies, rather the industry loves what you're doing as well. And thank you for joining us today for 5 Big Questions.
You got it, Al. All I have to say is thank you to everyone, because if it weren't for your passion for light, well, none of us would have a job. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey there, we really enjoyed that discussion. We hope that you did as well. Be sure to click that big LED logo next to me, and what that'll do is subscribe you to our YouTube channel so you don't miss the next 5 Big Questions interview. And YouTube subscribers always receive an early preview to the next interview before we even post it on the Inside Lighting website. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.